What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Hoops All In podcast. As always, I'm your host, Worlds Francois, joined by my co-host Keith Bazin. Keith, man, what's going on? How you doing, Celtics fan?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. The semifinals it's been a little interesting for a lot of different teams, but I'm doing good right now.
Okay. It's good to hear. It's good to hear. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Hoops All In. Follow us on our social media platforms at Hoops All In on Instagram, TikTok, and X/Twitter. Also subscribe to Keith's personal Hoops All In YouTube channel at Keith HAI. Does great work over there. So give him a subscribe and follow. But yeah, man, Keith, you said you mentioned you're doing pretty good in these Eastern Conference semifinals. Your team's not looking too good, but we're gonna get into that pretty soon.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. There's things that there's a lot that goes into this when we're only about halfway through this series. But before we get into those, the question of the day today is um who has been it's pretty simple. Just who do you think has been the best and the worst player of like significance? Like don't give me a 10th man, but like give me like a top 7 player of who's been the best and worst of the playoffs so far.
The best and worst. I'm gonna start with the worst. A team that just got bounced out the first round to the Warriors, and that's the Houston Rockets. Jalen Green, much expectation from him. When you score 7, 9, and 12 points in crucial playoff games, and you're arguably the second best player on the team's roster, that is a disgrace. You need to get better. He needs to be consistent. He reminds me of a J.R. Smith with his inconsistent shot making. So he's definitely the worst. And the best, I would have to say, probably right now, I'm tied between either Jokic or Jalen Brunson from the New York Knicks, because Jalen Brunson has come in clutch, uh, you know, for the Knicks, and especially we won't get into that, but that key basket that he hit against, Asar Thompson, the first round against Detroit Pistons, pretty much crossing Thompson out of the screen, hitting the dagger, and again another clutch basket in the first game and in the second round against the Boston Celtics. He comes in clutch time after time again. So I got a two-part answer. It's between Jokic and Murray for me. And we know Jokic, what Jokic does, triple double machine, all that and above.
Yeah, no. My for my worst player, it was between two people, Jalen Green, and then I also said I gotta get some tough love. Porzingis, man, Porzingis has been a nothing in the playoffs so far,
Mhm.
even through the first round and the round this round versus the Knicks. Um, he is having his own issues. It has come out that he had a virus or something in March, and he's like getting IVs and immune boosters and everything now. But it's been really bad so far
Yeah,
to the point where he's not even starting anymore. But
yeah.
and then best, I mean, yeah, say it with your chest, man. It's definitely been Jalen Brunson. I mean, Jalen Brunson, time and time again, has shown why he's been the clutch player of the year. Jokic has been had a good start to the playoffs. The last two games, he really hasn't had great games, even though they ended up winning game three. And even right now, he's 1 for 8. As OKC and Denver are playing right now, but yeah, Jalen Brunson has been amazing. He's not necessarily having the like 30-40 point performances he was having versus the Pistons, but he's not playing the Pistons anymore. He's playing a much better team now. But although it hasn't necessarily looked like it so far, but in theory, he's playing a much better team. But let's get right into it. Which Eastern Conference team do we think is most likely to come back and win their series? If either of them, obviously talking about the Cavs or the Celtics, both those series are 2-1 in favor of the underdog, the Pacers and the Knicks. But which series do you want to start? Do you want to start with more? I mean, you want to start with our teams?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the Cleveland Cavaliers have a better shot to win their series despite them being down 2-1, because you gotta remember game two in their home court, they were missing three out of their four best players. Evan Mobley didn't play, Darius Garland didn't play, and I believe DeAndre Hunter didn't play. So it was
Mhm,
all on Donovan Mitchell. He scored like well over 40 points, but
mhm.
the Pacers were just doubling him. He ran out of gas out at the end of the game, and the Cavs blew a 20-point lead at the halftime. And so, when you don't have that much offensive firepower and just targeting one guy, it's easy for them to come back. And we saw what the Cavs did close to full strength against Indiana at home, blew them out the water. That's the Cleveland Cavaliers thing that we know. But yeah, I'm gonna have to say the Cleveland Cavaliers. The reason why I do not say the Boston Celtics is because again, the Knicks went into TD Garden at Boston's territory, came back down 20 points in back-to-back games. And as much as the Knicks shot themselves back into the game, the Boston Celtics shot themselves out of the game. I believe game one they missed 45 missed threes. That is a NBA record. In between games one and games two combined, they missed over 75 missed 3-point shots. That is an abomination. What the hell is Coach Missoula should be is telling you guys, hey guys, we're not making threes, so stop fucking shooting threes. Drive to the basket, get to the free throw line, get easy shots, and they just pulling up, jacking up threes like their team is full of Steph Curry's, many Steph Curry's running around. It doesn't work that way in the NBA, and that's why again, Celtics have shot themselves in their own foot. But you down 20 and you let a team come back, a team that you're more talented than on your home court. Yeah. And I don't see again, the Knicks have a good chance, in my opinion, to win game four, which is going to be at the Garden tomorrow. That place is going to be electric. But when you cannot, there's no excuse for blowing back-to-back 20-point leads when your team is arguably at full strength, besides, Porzingis being in and out the line with his health issues. But everybody else is playing at full strength. So there's no excuse for the defending champions to play abysmal basketball at this level, at this time.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know. I can very well see a world where honestly there's a world that, especially when these series were 2-0, that there was a world that maybe neither of these teams come back between the Cavs or Celtics, and we see a very uh unusual, conference finals matchup that I don't think anybody was prepared for because um I think everybody for the last however long would say at least one of the Cavs or Celtics will be in the conference finals. But
Mhm.
again, they are both they both won a game. It's only 2-1. 2-1 is not the worst to be down by. Now, I think that game 3 for or not game 3, game 4 for these two teams being the Cavs and the Celtics are super important. You lose these games, I think your season is basically done. It's not impossible to come back down 3-1. We've seen it before, but the personnel on both these teams, I don't know how much I would trust them just because again they are teams that are likely to blow big leads, more so recently being my Celtics, but honestly I have to disagree, and I have to say that I think my Celtics have a better chance to only because again, the first I'm not making excuses whatsoever. The first two games were inexcusable. I mean, the first game was a little bit like, okay, we've seen this before with the Celtics team, whether it was last year or this year, where sometimes they'll just have a really bad shooting night and they tend to blow leads, which is one of the most frustrating things. But then you double down, you do the exact same thing in game two. You were up by 20 points and you blow the same lead. You shoot 25% again from three, and like Werls said, 25 for 100 from three in the first two games is not something you want to see. But game three, we came out. Okay, game three, we made sure we got that lead and we held it and we secured it. And we pretty much never, I don't think it ever really got to below 20 points again. But my question for you is though, are you not like, even though you won the first two games, are you not concerned that your team has gone down by 20 in the first half of all three games so far?
No, not concerned because that's what the Boston Celtics MO is. The Boston Celtics have blown teams out the water in the first half of the game. They did it against the Warriors. They did it against top or upper echelon teams, and
Mhm.
they just blow the lead. That's in the Boston Celtics DNA, and it goes to show you that the Knicks are able to come back down from large deficits against them and win games against them. So I'm not really concerned. Now, I would be more concerned if they were, if the Celtics were shooting better than 25% from three,
Mhm.
and then the Knicks were still, weren't able to come back, then that's a different story. But
Mhm.
again, the Celtics shoot themselves in the foot. They're their own worst enemy. And if I'm, Tom Thibodeau, I'm like, let this team keep jacking up threes because they haven't made them all this series. Obviously, you want to defend to some level. You don't want to get, like Derek White or Peyton Pritchard going because those are some knockdown lethal shooters. But everybody else, let Jaylen Brown shoot the three. Let Jason Tatum shoot the three. They've been abysmal so far from beyond the arc. And again, if it comes down to late game clutch situations, we just gonna put Mikal Bridges or OG Anunoby on them. And Mikal Bridges, who came up with two back-to-back clutch defensive plays, shows that he was worth those 5 first-round draft picks that the New York Knicks traded to acquire him. And we're gonna match wing for wing with Boston. That's how you beat them. That's how they got to the NBA Finals last year. And the Knicks are trying to replicate that same formula. So I'm not worried at all with that. Like I said again, the Boston Celtics are their own worst enemy. And if the Knicks are able to come back down 20 points in back-to-back games in their territory, and they've again blown other 20-point leads against upper echelon teams, I think we should be fine. Now, game 4, in my opinion, for the Knicks is a must win because momentum is a very dangerous thing in sports, no matter what sports you play, whether it's baseball, badminton, pickleball, football, whatever the case may be. You do not want this give this team any momentum. The Knicks got to come out in game 4. The Garden's gonna be electric. Now it's gonna be a difference because game 3 they're playing at 3:30 in the afternoon. There's gonna be a night game. They're gonna shut down Times Square, give the fans something to go home about. Handle business in game 4. And then you feel more comfortable going back to Boston, which you won the first two, and closing it there. But momentum is a dangerous thing in sports. Ask the Golden State Warriors how momentum shifted against them back in 2016. They were up 3-1 and they took their foot off the gas pedal. Now, my only thing for the Knicks that I'm concerned about is that Karl Anthony Towns is not 100%. There's been belief
Yeah.
that he may have broken one of his
Yeah.
fingers
I
because
don't know how he did that.
yeah.
I don't understand. I've seen the video that they keep showing, and I don't understand how he would have done it.
Yeah, I don't know either. You saw him relive said, I think I broke it, or he says like I broke it for sure.
Yeah.
But if I'm the Knicks, you're concerned that your second best player in the team is not 100% healthy, so that's gives you caution. But that should give you more urgency to say, you know what, let's close this out as fast as we can. We have the lead. Give Karl Anthony Towns as much rest as possible. If they advance into the next round. So
Mhm.
that's my only thing for the Knicks, man. Don't don't get too hyped in their own selfish good. Close it out in game 4. Go back to Boston. Or go win in game 4. Excuse me. Then go back to Boston and close it out in game 5.
So at what point? And I before I do this, I do owe I don't know if you remember. There's been a couple times where I said I think Mikal Bridges' defense has become a little overrated.
Yeah, you owe that man an
I apologize.
apology. Yeah.
I apologize. I apologize. The way that he ended both game 1 and game 2, again, my fault. I just think maybe it's just I feel like he's better on like smaller guard players instead of bigger. But hey, he got the steal from 2 strong wings, so maybe I'm wrong. But when do you, as a Knicks fan, when do you start to get nervous then? If game 4 is basically the same as game 3 went, where we shoot almost 50% from 3, we go up by 20 early on, is that when do you start to get nervous?
I start to get nervous if it's the beginning of the 4th and the Knicks are down, let's say double digits, 10, 12 points. Now again, no lead is safe in the NBA, especially you shoot a couple of threes, you're right back into the game. But you got to give some type of credit to the defending champions.
Mhm.
When the game was getting close and when the Knicks were making a run, they would cut the lead to under single digits going into the 4th. If it's going to the 4th in game 4 and the Knicks are down, let's say 15, 20 points,
Mhm.
I start to get a little worried because again, as a Knicks fan, we do not want to tie this series up 2-2 going back to Boston. No, especially if they win game 5, they have killer instinct, they have championship DNA. They're gonna come into Madison Square Garden and have all intentions to close it out. Like I said, if I'm the New York Knicks, go into game 4 full force, do what you can, and do not play with this team. Don't play with your food. So that's the
So
only place I get nervous. If it's like, okay, 4th quarter and we're down by 15, yeah, this is tied 2-2.
So 4th quarter of game 4 is when you would start
Yeah.
to get nervous if it's the
Yes.
right scenario. Okay.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah. I mean, again, I don't know why. And with the Missoula stuff, it's not necessarily like you said. Right. You're right. We don't have 5 Steph Curry starting, and it's not necessarily because of the player's shooting ability that is why he does that. Is Joe Missoula is a very analytically advanced kind of coach where he loves like the analytics of things, and he thinks that, hey, you just keep shooting, they'll eventually go in. And he was right enough to get us a championship last year. That's how we did it last year. That's how we got to a back-to-back 60-win season and, the second seed in the East. But I do agree. It's like it does get to a point where it's like, okay, you see who's in front of you. You see Jalen Brunson is in front of Jalen Brown. Why is Jalen Brown or Jason Tatum or whoever shooting a step back three? Or you see, Karl Anthony Towns or Mitchell Robinson is on an island with Tatum, and we know Tatum can get, or Jalen Brown can get right by them, but we still pull up for a three. Those are the possessions where it's like you're kind of trying to get it. I've seen this be said before, where you're trying to come back in one shot. You want to get all the momentum back in one shot, and that's just not how it works. You have to, especially if you're down by, say, 15 points, you're not going to get all of your momentum back from making 1 3. And I think that's what, again, the Celtics live and die on. And again, them doing that, again, won them a ring, but it gets to a point where it's like we can't just act like we can shoot 85% of our shots are 3-pointers and we'll win the game, because we just won't. Our team, we have the similar personnel, but Drew Holiday's not as good. Porzingis has sucked in the last few months of the season and playoffs. Sam Hauser hasn't really he doesn't even play anymore, and he was one of the best 3-point shooters in the league last year. The only real plus we got was Pritchard, and he really didn't get too much better. He kind of just got more of an opportunity to where he ended up winning 6th man of the year. But I mean, I've been worried. I worried since the end of that first game buzzer ended, because losing the first one on the home floor, it's like, okay, that's not a great one to lose, because first of all, you're the home team, and the Celtics for some reason are a better away team than home. I think we went over that a few episodes ago. But when you lose game 2 and you lose your first 2 games at home, I don't care what team you are. If you're the defending champions or you're making the playoffs for the first time in 10 years, it's not good to do. And I think they just put them in a hole, and they put themselves in a hole that was too big for them to climb out of, and they got comfortable, and this is what it results to, almost maybe being down 3-1 in the second round, when you had full plans to be back in the finals, especially with all the reports coming out that this team will not look the same next year. This is the final dance for this, those core 5 guys for the Celtics, because at least one of them will be gone, and you don't want to regret the fact that you only got one chance with this team and then you fizzled out in the second round, when, if we're being honest, the Celtics were favorites. And I don't know what the odds are now anymore, but you were favorites, and you don't want to waste that by blowing it in the second round when you really shouldn't have.
But yeah, and that's the thing with the Celtics too. As I mentioned again, they shoot themselves in their own foot. They do not treat every possession as a championship in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. So when you again shoot yourselves ahead of a game, they also shoot themselves out of a game. And if you're a Coach Mazzulla, you're the players. I'm pretty sure he's told them, "All right, guys, we're not making our 3-point shots, so stop fucking shooting." Is it there's a disconnect between the coach and the players? Because Joe Mazzulla is a good coach. He won a championship. If you see your team is shooting 25% from beyond the arc, you got enough of that. Okay, just keep jacking them up. Eventually making them. That's costing you the game. You were up 20, and now the team that you were up 24 on your home court came back and won. And then you do the same exact thing in Game 2. So Albert Einstein said this: the repetition of the definition of magic, is doing the same exact thing and expecting a different result. They did the same exact thing in Game 1 and Game 2 and expected a different result. Now, again, in Game 3, they didn't shoot as much threes, but it was going to be interesting. Are they going to continue to follow that formula in Game 4? That remains to be seen. But, if you're a Celtics fan, I know you kind of talked about it a little bit, but are you very frustrated with this team, just lack of aggressiveness to attack the basket?
I mean, I am because, like, if we're being honest, Jaylen Brown his whole career, that's what he was known for. He didn't come out of California and be known for a shooter. That was the one thing that he, like, when he was coming into the draft and coming into the league, he wasn't known for. Jason Tatum always was able the mid range of 3-pointers, but I think when this, Joe Mazzulla came into the Celtics organization in 2023 or 2022, 2023, that the whole game plan just switches. And honestly, you said Joe Mazzulla's the one in there that's like, okay, these aren't going in, let's stop. I honestly think it might be reversed because, again, this is Jason Tatum, or all these play Derek White before he came to the Celtics wasn't shooting 12 threes a game. Porzingis wasn't, Porzingis still does his mid-range thing, but like Drew Holiday wasn't shooting 7 threes a game every game. So it does get frustrating when it's like you can't see one go in and you are actively blowing a lead or losing the lead and you are down, and the last 5 threes didn't go in, but you still want to take a sidestep three. It's like, man, sometimes you got to switch it up. You got to just see something else go in, and maybe that can ignite something else, or maybe that can, get your confidence back. But it gets to a point where it's like, let's see something different because we have the personnel to do it. I mean, Jaylen Brown and Tatum are super athletic. Porzingis is the tallest player on the court in 98% of the games that we play. And I mean, he sort of takes advantage of it, but it's in a different way. It's not him getting down in the post and drop stepping on you. It's him doing his contested mid-range thing, which has been pretty good through the first part of this season. But yeah, it does. I agree. It gets to a point where it's like, you got to try something else.
Yeah, and like I said, you mentioned too, this team is not going to be back next year. Based off the performances that we've seen from certain players on the Boston Celtics, we kind of have a strong inclination on who they're gonna unfortunately have to trade. And I think Porzingis is going to be one of them because he just hasn't been healthy. Don't know what type of infection that he's dealing with. Hopefully, it's not anything crazy. But they're also probably going to get rid of Drew Holiday. Sam Howes hasn't been playing. He is making about what, 10, $11 million. They're going to get licked rid of him. So we already see 3 players that they're going to look to trade, as this team is going to have a heavy luxury tax bill next year.
Yeah. And I think back to what you asked, it would honestly be more frustrating for me if this was something that we kind of just started doing in the second half of the season, or if this was like we won, like, again, we won last year. It's a different year. Teams are better. The Cavs are better. The Knicks are better. They acquired Mikal, everything, like, teams are better. But I mean, it's not like I've lost faith. I mean, again, we just won game 3 by doing the same thing. We attempted the same amount of threes in game 3 as we did in game 2, but we made more and we executed better on those attempts that we got. And we weren't playing like we had no idea how to dunk the ball. But I will say, when I was watching game 3 with my dad, I said to him, I'm like, the Celtics look like all 5 of their players that started are like 36 years old. They just look old and tired. Like, they don't, like, granted, Al Horford is like 38. Drew Holiday is like 33, 34, something like that. But Derek White's, I don't even think 30 yet. Tatum and Brown are like 28, 27. They shouldn't be looking like they shouldn't be looking like they're tired out of just, it's only the second round. And
Yeah.
Tatum and Brown have been to much further in the playoffs in most of their postseason careers. So we just looked old and we looked burnt out in game 3. I mean, thankfully we actually got the lead and held it, but yeah, it hasn't. This is like a complete. We haven't looked like the defending champions. We just haven't. We haven't looked like the defending champions, and we haven't looked like a contender this year based off those last 2 games.
I remember I saw ESPN analyst Tim Legler I think he said he criticized both game one and game two, mainly more on the Boston Celtics, said that that was just egregious, horrible basketball. Because
Yeah.
you just mentioned how your top stars, Brown, Tatum, and Derek White to a lesser degree, they all look tired. Well, you use a lot of energy to go up big in a game, and then now you let a team come back. Now you're in a dogfight. You even using even more energy to try to win the game in a close fight. Instead, you could have been using less energy if you had kept your foot on the gas pedal and put them away. But like I said again, Celtics shoot themselves in their own foot. And a lot of people even question, well, Boston, some people were questioning Boston Celtics championship win last year was that they kind of got lucky because, again, they went up against the Indiana Pacers. I believe Tyrese Halliburton didn't play the last two games.
Mhm.
Indiana was a good team. Indiana got lucky because they faced a hospital bill in New York Knicks. Pretty much their whole starting five lineup was hurt. And, Boston also faced teams that were injured as well. And we all know, again, they were just too powerful. It was just a matchup nightmare for the Dallas Mavericks, who are a completely different team this year. So people even question, well, Boston got lucky. So maybe they kind of feel the pressure to say, you know what? Well, some people saying our championship win last year was a fluke, try to repeat it. But again, if they continue their own habits that they were doing last year, this is a year and some change that the Celtics have been shooting themselves in games along with out of games. Maybe their luck, excuse me, might ran out this year. That's what some people are saying. I disagree with that, but
Right. Okay. That's what I was going to say because if I'm being like last year, I think pretty much since the moment we got Drew Holiday, I'm pretty sure 90% of the people that take basketball seriously pick the Celtics all year long.
yeah,
And going into this year, before the season started, before OKC took off, before Cleveland took off, who was the favorite again? It wasn't
Boston.
it right.
Well,
It was
OKC was a little more ahead. Yeah,
right, right. But once the season got going, teams like OKC and even Cleveland, jumped over them for a little bit. But with the way with the fact that the what Cleveland also did, Cleveland did a very similar thing in the fact that they went down 2-0 to the underdog, but they didn't do it by having a 20-point lead and blowing it. They just did it because Donovan Mitchell played. Donovan Mitchell scored 40 points in the first 40 points or more in the first 3 games of the series, but they haven't gotten anything else because Darius Garland has missed this whole series so far. And then, like you said, in game two, Mobley and DeAndre Hunter missed. But again, if I don't know. It does get to a point, but
yeah,
um,
and like I said, I'm not agreeing with those people who think that because first of all, you do need some type of luck to win a championship. That's just what it is. As long and it's matchups. NBA playoffs is all about matchups. So let's just say people saying, well, you guys didn't have to go up against the Cleveland Cavaliers, or you might not have to go up against the Cleveland Cavaliers this year. Depending what happens with that series against the Pacers. We've seen the Cavs come back when the Celtics again shot themselves in the foot. They were up big and then they blew the lead. A lot of
mhm,
people are picking the Cavs to beat the Celtics because again, it's a matchup problem. If they do go back to the NBA Finals, the Boston Celtics, they're probably a lot of people are picking the OKC Thunder to go to the NBA Finals, represent the Western Conference. OKC again is a matchup problem because Porzingis is the unicorn. When he is healthy, he is a mismatch problem for Boston. You could put him down low. He has a height advantage. He could shoot the threes. He's very mobile. But the Oklahoma City Thunder have a big man, Shet, Hartenstein that can that can counteract that. So again,
mhm.
I'm not saying I agree, but a lot of people's like, well, Boston didn't really face any team that was 100% because a lot of teams that they face, either their star player was injured or they voted a team that had a better matchup against them. That's what I said. That's what they're saying. I'm not saying I agree. That's what the streets are saying.
But yeah, if I'm saying my thing though with the Celtics is like if the Celtics went up against a healthy who they play last year, if they went up against the healthy Cavs from last year, you thought Cavs were going to win?
Um, that's a good question. Probably, I think it would be a close series.
Right. Those series definitely
Yeah,
could have maybe went 5 or 6 games, or depending on some teams we sweep, some teams we went 5. But those series could have definitely went 6. But I'm not looking at if the Pacers kept Halliburton, and what people aren't understanding from that is like Halliburton got hurt in game like 3. So he missed the last 2 games. It's not like Halliburton was gone that whole series. It's not like Donovan Mitchell was gone that whole series last year. It's not like I don't even remember who he played in the first round.
I think you guys
Oh,
play like the
Miami.
Hawks or Miami? That's right.
And I mean, Miami took a game. I don't think they ended up getting anybody hurt, but they just weren't a good team. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't look at any of those teams. Even at sure, I'm a Celtics fan, but I don't look at any of those series from last year and think that they could have beat us. Again, they maybe could have won another game or so, or had some of the games be closer. But I don't,
But
I don't think.
again, Porzingis wasn't healthy last year either. I think he was hurt
Right?
majority of the
Okay,
playoffs.
so
So so again, it's all about matchups. If Porzingis wasn't playing, and the Cleveland Cavaliers are a team that is a matchup problem for the Boston Celtics,
mhm.
especially when it comes down to the bigs, I think that would have been the X factor. Now, again, it would have been interesting to see, but this year, well, hopefully, we get to see that, especially since this is a much better team and they have an extra wing in DeAndre Hunter that could kind of counteract what Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown are doing, as we see Mikal Bridges is doing for the New York Knicks, and along with OG Anunoby.
Yeah, but that's what I like. Also, if people want to say, okay, the Cavs had the same team. The Cavs lost Donovan Mitchell again. We didn't have Porzingis that whole series.
Yeah,
So, and Donovan Mitchell is Donovan Mitchell is a much better player, but he only missed the last game and a half or 2 games. We didn't have Porzingis for 70% of that playoff run, and we still handled them just fine. So, again, this year is different. Teams
yeah.
are better. Porzingis doesn't look the same. Drew doesn't look the same. Whatever, but we spent way too long on that series. But so let's go.
Yeah,
Let's go to Cleveland, Indiana. We talked about it a little already, but Indiana's bench has just stood out to me way more than this Cavs bench, which surprises me
yeah,
because Cavs have a pretty decent bench when you look at who they have and who they acquired. But Ty Jerome has been off. Ty Jerome, I think in the last like 2 or 3 games, he's like 2 for 25. It's been discussed. It's been awful.
yeah,
DeAndre Hunter was hurt game 2. I wish that the Cavs during the trade deadline got a backup center because they really don't. And if Evan Mobley is missing a game or two here and there, you got to play Jared Allen 40 minutes because you don't have anyone who can play backup center because you don't want to play Tristan Thompson when it matters the most. And you don't like Dean Wade is like a small forward and he's your biggest player that you have off the bench that you really
yeah.
care about. But the Pacers bench between Aaron Nesmith, Obi Toppin, TJ McConnell, it's just been way better than what the Cavs have done. And again, Donovan Mitchell has been top 3, top 5 player in the playoffs so far, but it gets to a point where like, man, Evan Mobley, you got to do so. Like you got to do something, and you got to get some stops because, and again, the stops aren't just all on Evan Mobley, but I mean they're not getting production from really anyone. And like I said, Ty Jerome being the most disappointing is like when you don't have Darius Garland and Ty Jerome is playing like that, you can't play Ty Jerome. You have to play somebody else, and that's one of your other guards gone while Garland isn't there.
I second echo that. Ty Jerome, I think shot and thinking like game 2 when the Pacers came back, he shot like 2-11 from the field, which is freaking abysmal, something like that.
Awful.
And as I mentioned again, when you have 3 of your 4 top best players that are hurt, they're gonna look to the bench. I was expecting a lot more from Max Strus, who only gave you 7 points in game 1. Same thing, with Merrill and Dean Wade, who played 16 minutes and gave you 0 points in game
Max
1.
Strus was really good in one of those games, though. I don't know
It
if it was
wasn't.
game
It
3
wasn't.
or
It wasn't game 1 and 2. It probably was game 3, but it wasn't game 1 and 2 because I'm
okay.
looking at the thing right here. But again, when you look at the box score and the stats like that, you're just like, man, we expect so much better, especially when a lot of your players aren't hurt. And looking at game 2, Max Strus again, he played great in game 2, but Dean Wade, 30 points, 30 minutes, 3 points, abysmal. Donovan Mitchell did all he can. Jared Allen again, he's doing what he can, playing almost 40 minutes, 22 points, 12 rebounds. But you mentioned Ty Jerome, 2 points. Oko, 5 points. Green played 10 minutes, but only had 14 points. Merrill had a little bit better game. So I'm expecting those guys, especially at the guard position, to step up. And as you mentioned, shout out to the Pacers guards. Like Mathurin has been playing awesome. So has Nemhard.
Mm-hmm.
So those guys have really been a key for the Pacers. But well, I don't think the Cavs need like DeAndre Hunter to win this series. But you just mentioned it shows when they don't have Mobley. That's that's a big problem because again with the Pacers they can have Miles Turner come in. Hell, they even played that guy who everybody's afraid of, James Johnson. They say, you know
I
what?
do. That was crazy when he
Yeah,
he got a foul in the first 3 seconds
yeah,
as he checked in, but yeah, that was crazy. Go keep going though.
yeah. No, you get that's what it's. But it's like, all right, if you guys playing Visco, we'll just throw the guy that everybody's afraid of in the NBA. Ain't nobody gonna want to mess with him, foul him, and touch him. But like it just goes to show you, like the Pacers again, their guards, Nimhard, Neesmith, again, Mathurin have been playing great. Even McConnell has been giving them solid production throughout this whole series. But it's
Mhm.
just again, it's just a mismatch for them. If they had like a backup center, somebody like a Jalen Duren that they could possibly go after during the trade deadline, that would have been a good thing for them because like you mentioned, if Mobley is not playing, that puts so much onus on Allen. They don't have another big body that they could that they could put down there at the power forward center position. So that's the only thing. But I don't think they need Hunter to win this series.
Yeah, no, I think it would help because they do
Yeah,
have a lot of wing players when you talk about Nemhard, Neesmith, Mathurin, Toppin, Siakam. I don't even really look at as a big.
yeah.
Really, he's more of a wing to me. But so I think it would help. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm scared. They play later. They play after this OKC Denver game. Man, Cleveland, man, you gotta. I mean, again, the Celtics do too, but Cleveland, you gotta. I mean, these game fours for both of these Eastern Conference series, they are must wins for every single team.
Mm-hmm.
If the Pacers want to get a leg up, they must win. If the Cavs want to get back in this series, they must win. 3-1 is one of the scariest things to face, scariest deficits to face.
Yeah.
Just because again, it has happened, but you wouldn't go and bet your house on it. So,
No,
um, but yeah, I mean, Halliburton was good. I think the first 2 games,
he was
um,
ass game three.
he was really bad. Turner has been. I've been pretty impressed with Turner because Siakam has kind of been used more of a like a diversion a little bit, just because Siakam has been amazing through the playoffs. So before this, but Turner stepped up again. Neesmith is. I think Neesmith's having like 17 this series. He had that putback dunk on
Yeah,
the
that was
was
crazy.
that game 1, game 2 maybe it was I think it was game 2, but
Yeah, we're Mitchell. Yeah,
yeah, where he's just been giving them their points that they need even before the comeback. So um but it's been a good series. They're both good teams. And I don't know if you knew this, but 7 out of our 8 teams in the playoffs are the exact same from last year's semifinals.
oh
The only
yeah,
team
that's
that is
right.
different is instead of Dallas, it's Golden State.
Mm.
And the thing that I thought was the funniest too about this is that all the team, all almost all the teams are the same, but none of the matchups are the same
Mm.
because the Knicks played the Pacers last year, the Celtics played the Cavs, OKC played Dallas, which in this case would be Golden State, and
Mm.
then Minnesota played Denver, and none of those matchups are happening right now. But while we're on OKC, which MVP candidate do you think is going to advance? They are playing right now as we're recording this. There's 5 minutes left in the third, and Denver's up 3.
Mm. Well, I see 55-52 right now. The time is recording now. They're just up by 7. No, excuse me, 58-52 now. So that's about
6 points, yeah.
6 points. But my mind wants to say Shea and Oklahoma City Thunder,
Hmm.
but I cannot trust the Denver Nuggets defense at all. Their defense is so abysmal. They can't even guard the couch that's in my room. They can't even guard the chair that's outside my backyard. They are just abysmal on the defensive end. And
Hmm.
so, as we all said again, defense wins championships. Offense gets you to the promised land, but defense is going to be the one that's going to have you holding that Larry O'Brien trophy at the end of June. And I just cannot trust the Nuggets defense. So, Jokic, as we mentioned, great player, best player right now in the league by far.
Hmm.
But I don't trust the defense of Michael Porter Jr. I don't trust the defense of Westbrook. I don't trust the defense of even Aaron Gordon to a lesser degree, even though he's a more better defensive wing than those guys. Same
Hmm.
thing with Christian Braun. But yeah, I don't know. I'm probably gonna lean towards OKC because Shea has not played that particularly well in this series as well. He had some good games, but since it's again going to be the battle of the two MVPs this season, I would expect Shea to come out and make some sort of statement like a 40, 50 point game or have a back-to-back 35 plus point game. And I haven't seen that from him. So I'm gonna lean with SGA and OKC, but slightly. Because again, team had an unbelievable season. They won like what 68 some games. They're like what the top five or top eight best team record wise. And
Hmm.
Mark Dagnall has camaraderie with that team. They didn't fire their head coach, won them a championship just
Hmm.
5 days before the regular season ended and the playoffs were about to begin. So I'm gonna have to go with Shea slightly.
Yeah, and when you talk about Shea so far, it reminds me of Tatum and the Celtics, right? Shea hasn't had to go crazy because they swept the first round. The second round is looking questionable because they are down 2-1 currently, and they
Mhm.
need this game four, just like we said with the Cavs and the Celtics series. But Jokic in game one had like 40 and 20. But game two, where the Nuggets lost by over 40 points, Jokic had 17, 8, and 6, 6 for 16 shooting, 6 turnovers, and he fouled out.
Yeah.
Um, in game three, where it was the overtime win, where hey, Aaron Gordon might be fighting Jalen Brunson for clutch player of the year so far in these playoffs, I will say, because the game winner, the go ahead shot to send this game three to overtime, and then he had one more. It might have been game seven for the Clippers series, but Aaron Gordon's been amazing. But you look at game three for Jokic, 20 and 16, sure, but 8 for 25 and 0 for 10 from three with 8 turnovers. Again, a pretty awful game if you say so. And in this game, he's 17 and 8. He's got 4 steals, but again, 4 for 13 from the field. He's 8 for 8 from free throws. So he really isn't again having the greatest game. So and that's just Hartenstein and Chet is two there, and they're pretty much starting those two and playing them a lot together. But that's a task to go up against when Chet is one of the best shot blockers in the league, and Hartenstein is one of the strongest players in the league. But I'm going with the Thunder. Again, they need to win tonight, like we said, but the Thunder are just better. Their defense is better. Their offense is better. Um, and they just have to pick it up because again they're trailing right now, but Shea needs to pop out and do scoring. I don't even Shea right now. He only has 16. I guess only it's not that bad in the third quarter, but I agree. I'm going with Shea.
Yeah.
Um, and then our last series, do the Curryless Warriors have a chance versus the Timberwolves? Curry's been out with a hamstring. He went out in game one early on, and the earliest that he's looking to return is game six, if they even make it that far. But do you think that the Warriors have a chance with no Curry?
No, not at all. Um, Jimmy Butler, this would have been a time for Jimmy Butler to show he was worth that 2 year over $100 million contract extension. And Butler, I wouldn't say I've been disappointed because he is older, but Butler, your best player is out. You're the de facto best player
Mhm.
on that team right now, and they're gonna lean on you to be that offensive scoring load, and he just hasn't gotten it done. I mean, come on, and again, Draymond Green is doing Draymond Green shit, which I don't even know if you want to talk about Draymond Green because again, he literally is a menace to society for the Golden State Warriors. But I don't do not see this team going up against beating the Minnesota Timberwolves without Wardell, Stephen Curry. It's not happening. It's not happening. He's too reliable. And with Steph Curry out, everybody is in an unnatural position because now again, Draymond Green is now bringing the ball up the court. Jimmy Butler's now bringing the ball up the court. Sometimes you see Buddy Hield bring the ball up the court. That's not their natural positions. They're not natural, playmakers. Draymond Green is more so, but he's not the type to always bring the ball up the court. And so
No.
everybody's out of place. They're confused. They don't know what's going on. Just like, okay, what's the set here? You go here, you go here, you go there. And when Steph Curry is there, there's a more or less because again, he is the greatest shooter in the history of the league. But when he's not there on the court, now a team doesn't have to focus so much of their defensive energy on just one guy. Now you could be able to cover a Buddy Hield. Now you could be able to cover a Jimmy Butler. Now you could, don't have to worry much about Draymond Green setting plays, stuff like that. Who else on the team is a good 3-point shooter? Brandon Pizisky. You
Who's
could
been
just throw
awful.
one. And yeah, he's been ass in this story in this series. So no, I do not see the Warriors, the Curryless Warriors, beating this Minnesota Timberwolves team. And if I'm Minnesota, that's a prime opportunity to knock them out in 5. Do not play with your food. You do not want to give this Warrior team any type of momentum to have their best player back. And even if Steph Curry does come back, let's say if this series is extended, even if Steph Curry does come back, how good is he gonna be coming off a hamstring? Because we know hamstrings are a injury that take a while to heal. It's not gonna be fully 100% healed in a week or so. That's just unrealistic. They're just gonna have him on the court as a decoy. But we all know coming off a hamstring in a week, Steph Curry's not going to beat 100%. And again, I'll just talk about, Jimmy Butler. Again, he played great in game, game 3, game 2 didn't have the best game. I think he had like over 20 points. But you're looking at the other players on the bench, like again, Pizzinski, 5 points. Buddy Hield had a solid game. Kaminga, what the hell are the Golden State Warriors and Steve Kerr doing with
So
this
glad
guy?
you're saying it because I was gonna do it. I was gonna rant about it.
Like this guy gets a whole bunch of DMPs game after game after game. And the first game he plays because you have to play him because Curry is out, and he goes and drops 30. This is why he's not going to be back on this team next year because you're playing with this guy. He arguably could have been the next person to be the face of the franchise when Steph Curry retires because he's that good. And when he's given the opportunity to play, he drops buckets. But again, Steve Kerr is an overrated ass coach. For you to not play Kaminga as much as he should be playing is a disgrace. And even looking at game 2, he played 26 minutes, gave you 18 points. He should be playing in the high 30 minutes because again, your best player is not playing. And talked about Jimmy Butler, game 2, 17 points, played in 34 minutes. So you're not getting much production from Pizzinski, from Buddy Hield. And we all know, Gary Payton Jr. the second is more of a defensive guy. He's not an offensive guy. So start Kaminga. But I digress. I'm not a coach in the NBA. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But when I see a player get a whole bunch of DMPs or play 5-10 minutes, and when you give him an opportunity, he goes out and drops 30, and who's athletic, strong, can defend, can make shots, does this, and you're not playing him, we don't know what the hell we're talking about. But yeah, but to answer the question, no, hell no. The Warriors, the Curless Warriors, do not have a chance against the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Couldn't agree more. No, they've got no chance unless Jimmy Butler averages 50, and
Yeah.
he's not doing that because he's become so passive for whatever reason. But yeah, Pods in almost 100 minutes. Like Curry has almost outscored Pods in this series, and Curry's played 13 minutes, and Pods has played almost 100 minutes, and he's just been awful. Jonathan Kaminga. He's your third best talent on the roster. Maybe he's not the third best player because again, he hasn't been, his numbers won't look great, his whatever, but talent-wise, behind Stephen Curry and Jimmy Butler, he's better than every single player on this court. And again, the fact that he plays in game 3, 30 points in 36 minutes, super efficient, 11 for 18, 3 for 4 from the field. If we go back to game 2, he started off 8 for 8. He ended up being 8 for 11 from the field. In 18 points, he was your leading scorer again. And, I mean, Steve Kerr plays literally everybody. Steve Kerr was talking about, I don't know if he was talking about this for game 2 or game 3, but he played 14 players in the first half. 14 players are and granted, Kuminga was playing, but this isn't a thing that just happened yesterday or whatever game this was. He's been playing 12, 13, 14 players deep all season, and Kuminga has been getting DMPs, like you said. There's no reason that honestly, there's no reason Gary Payton should be getting 26 minutes. There's no reason Quentin Post should be playing. There's no reason that, Kevon Looney should be playing after he just got absolutely baptized by Anthony Edwards yesterday. And then Trace Jackson Davis, who I think he's their best center on the roster, he hasn't been playing in the second half of the season either. And I think he started for the Warriors. He started for the Warriors yesterday. He only ended up with 11 minutes. So I don't really know what he's doing, talking about Steve Kerr, because he's changing the damn starting lineup every game. Why is Steve Kerr trying new things in game 3 of the second round? Steve Kerr is a 4-time champion. Steve Kerr has been coached one of the greatest team of all time record-wise, and two of top 15 players of all time, one of the best shooters in all time in Klay Thompson, and one of the best defenders of all time in Draymond Green. And now the fact that Curry's out, or the fact that they don't have Klay Thompson, he literally looks like he should be fired. He looks like he should get fired at the end of the season. He's not going to, because he's untouchable for whatever reason. But if I was the Warriors and this is the last dance or whatever you want to call it, and they want to go into this new era, which I don't know, because you're going to trade Jonathan Kuminga. He looks like he looks like the worst coach in the playoffs. Yeah. Maybe Joe Mazzulla is fighting him right now, but he looks like the worst coach in the playoffs, and he looks like he shouldn't have a job. He's going to, but he looks like he shouldn't.
Yeah, because he brought them 4 championships in 8 years, mainly because he had a whole bunch of Hall of Famers on the team. Same thing, got carried by Michael Jordan when he was with the Spurs, I believe. Obviously they had Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, all those guys, coached by Greg Popovich, Tony Parker, and all those great players. But yeah, this is what I mean. He's to a lesser degree a Doc Rivers, because he is a better coach than Doc Rivers, but he's just overrated as hell, because especially we saw the type of substitutions that he was making, especially when he was coaching the Olympics this past summer. And we're like, what the hell are you doing? For example, you don't play Jason Tatum. You gave him a whole bunch of DMPs, and this is a guy who just won an NBA championship. It was seen as a top 5 player, and for whatever reason that you don't give a reason to, you do not even play him a minute. He doesn't even touch the court. That is inexcusable.
He does give a reason. He says it's hard to play 12 players. That's a shit that it's insane, because what did I just say? He just played 14 players in the first half of a playoff game, and he's been doing it all year long. But Jason Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton, Joel Embiid for a game couldn't even touch the floor when they are. Joel Embiid won MVP, 2 years, not even 2 full years ago. Tatum has made All NBA first team for what's probably going to be the 4th year in a row. And Tyrese Halliburton was just in the conference finals and is one of the better point guards in the league.
Yeah.
Which it just doesn't make sense. But again, that's not what that was about. But yeah, Steve Kerr is
he's an overrated ass coach. Again,
it baffles me sometimes with what he does. But that was our preview of the playoffs. I did on my channel, I did a reaction article sort of thing where I was looking at an article by Bleacher Report called 4 Blockbuster NBA Trades. And these are all 4 players that either did not make the playoffs or will be out of the playoffs.
Okay.
So I'm gonna just read. I want to see what you had to think, because I was not very impressed with this article, if I'm being honest, when I was talking about it. I thought some of the moves were outlandish. Here, so I'll just read it. So Pistons, the title for this trade is Pistons take a stab to try and get a co-star along Cade Cunningham. The player that they picked was Zion Williamson. Now, Zion Williamson Detroit would receive Zion Williamson, and the New Orleans Pelicans would get Jaden Ivey, Tobias Harris, Bobby Klintman, a 2027 first rounder, top 3 protected, and a 2025 second round pick. Let me hear it. First reactions. What do you think? And I'll tell you what I said.
Hell no.
For
Hell
who?
fucking
For
for,
which
for,
side?
for the Detroit Pistons side. Hell no. First of all, why would I trade for a guy? I guess the name is Zion Williamson is a superstar when he's healthy. But the thing is, when he's healthy, he's never healthy. He's missed 214 games so far in his NBA career. He has missed more games than he has played. Okay. You're worried about this guy. Can he stay in shape? Can he keep his stomach, his body fat at a certain percentage? Can he keep his stomach lean? I am not trading that much for Zion Williamson. Again, Zion Williamson, I wouldn't use the word bust, but he has greatly underperformed in the expectation that we had for him. So hell no. If I'm the Detroit Pistons, yes, I'll look to add another co-star to pair alongside Cade. The future is bright for this team, but Zion Williamson is not the answer. He does not even want to be in New Orleans to begin with. So you think he's going to be happy playing in Detroit when it's going to be cold 70% of the year? Hell no. If I'm the Pistons, I do not even look. Give the Pelicans a call about Zion. Stay far away from him as possible. No.
Right. The first thing I said, right? Like we know the Pistons do it. And for all of these things, they give like a little paragraph that says why each team does it. The Pistons, we know they want a co-star, but the first thing it says is when they're healthy. If you have to say when they're healthy, I don't want them. I don't want them at all. And you talk about Detroit. So that starting lineup, just say would be Cade, would be Tim Hardaway Jr., Asar Thompson, not a great shooter at all. Zion Williamson, not a great shooter at all. And Jalen Duren, who is not proven to be a shooter at all. You just had success having mid shooters around him and Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr., and you're going to trade away Tobias Harris, Jaden Ivey, who only played 30 games for you this season, and Zion for Zion, which would mean you are taking away all of Cade's spacing, and you probably would not make the playoffs again, if I'm being honest, with that team.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
and
again,
we
Eagles.
didn't even, sorry, go.
No. Go ahead. Go. You finish. Go ahead.
We didn't even talk about what the Pelican side. So the Pelicans are going to trade Zion, who, okay, has had injury problems, but he was one of the most looked after first round picks at his time, right? He was one of the most hyped players that we could have. And you're trading him for Jaden Ivey when you have DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, and whatever else, Jordan Hawkins, Jose Alvarado, and you're trading your franchise player for Jaden Ivey, who with that lineup wouldn't even start for you.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good trade for either team at all.
Yeah. No,
But
I second echo that. And also too, Zion is probably still gonna feel like that's gonna be his team because he's 24. Cade is like 23, 24. They're around the same age. So you're gonna have to worry about Eagles clashing more on Zion's part. And Zion's gonna have to get a reality check. Like, look, if they make that trade, which I don't think they would do, but let's just say we live in bizarre world and they decide to make that trade, they're gonna have to tell Zion, like, yo, this is not your team. Your health has been a serious problem. This is Cade Cunningham's team. You're going to take a back seat to Cade Cunningham. Do you think that's going to go well for a 24-year-old who still sees himself, but not even entering his prime, who still sees himself as the face of a franchise? No. So and again, you cannot trust him. His availability has always been an issue since he came to the league. Hell fucking no.
all right. So the next trade. So this is one that's been going around a lot. The Rockets fix their offense with Durant. So the Houston Rockets would get Kevin Durant. The Phoenix Suns would receive Fred VanVleet, Cam Whitmore, a 2025 first round pick that is the Phoenix. So it's their own pick. So they would get their own pick back from Rockets, a 2027 first round pick that is also their own pick, and a 2028 first round pick.
You said Cam Whitmore and Fred VanVleet.
That's it. That's it for the players.
Considering I think the Rockets were probably going to move on from Fred VanVleet. There hasn't been any indications, but every year we know how the NBA circle is. They just move players. And Cam Whitmore and a couple of first round picks. Yeah, I would do it because again, you're not giving up any young talent. You're not giving up the core. You're not giving up, Green or Sangoon or Thompson. Hell, you're not even giving up, Dylan Brooks. So I probably would do it because again, we saw the Rockets. They didn't have like they have a number one option, but a guy who could get you baskets in clutch time, who can slow a team down from going on these runs. And when the Warriors went in runs, they literally had no response to them. But would you do that for Kevin Durant, who's going to be 37 next year by the time the season opens up? Who still probably got a good 2-3 years left max playing at an elite level. If I'm the Rockets, I probably would do that trade. If I don't have to give up any more than that, that's all I have to give up, then I probably would.
Yeah, no, if the Rockets could get away with just giving that up,
Yeah.
100%. But I don't think the Phoenix Suns would want Jabari Smith or something.
Yeah.
Like they would want something, and they kind of don't want they're not going to want Jalen Green because they'll still have Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. That's another shooting guard that will be on
Streaky
the
one.
roster, and you would want Jabari because your big men and forwards aren't really anything to brag about over there. I think the only reason that they would think about accepting this trade as is that they get two of their own picks back. And if you're trading Durant, you're pretty much heading into a rebuild again, which would suck for Devin Booker, but that's not as bad as the first one. But I think that I don't think the Phoenix Suns accept that as is.
Yeah, no way. No way.
So I want for these last two, I want you to guess. So the title by this is Heat Find Their Star. Who do you think the Miami Heat find their star in?
Giannis, number 34. No, it's not going to be Giannis.
Nope.
Then who the hell is KD?
Nope.
Zion?
Nope.
Who else could be on the trading block? Maybe Devin Booker if the Suns.
I wouldn't think very hard about who would necessarily be on the trading block for this one. Maybe this guy's teammate would be on the trading block if he makes an All-NBA team and has to get paid a lot.
We're not talking about the Boston Celtics because both guys got paid. We're not talking about the Warriors because obviously Butler just got traded. We're not talking about Houston. We're not talking about Minnesota. We're not talking about the Knicks. Who are we talking about then? We're not talking about the Pacers.
First round team that got eliminated in the West this year.
Are you talking about there's the Lakers that got eliminated. There's the Rockets.
Nope.
There's the Clippers.
Nope.
So wait, the Lakers, Rockets, Clippers, and who else got eliminated?
That fourth team that you're not thinking about. Who'd OKC eliminate?
Oh, Ja Morant.
Ja Morant. So the Miami Heat would receive Ja Morant and Jay Huff, and the Memphis Grizzlies would receive Duncan Robinson, Kyle Anderson, Nikola Jovic, Jaime Jaquez, a 2025 first-round pick via Golden State. So that would probably be like the 20th pick. A 2029 top 4 protected first-round pick, and a 2031 first-round pick.
Hell no. First of all, I don't even think the Memphis Grizzlies would do that trade because Ja is not even has reached his prime. He's like 24, 25 years old. And that's the Miami Heat's problem that they, can't keep stars. So hell no. Now again, if you're Memphis and you're looking to go rebuild, you don't believe Ja is gonna be the face of the franchise moving forward for whatever reason, which I don't think that that's what they're heading, then I would probably demand a little bit more than that for Ja Morant. But hell no. Like that. Well, Bleacher Report is, what Bleacher Report does? They post a lot of these trade scenarios and articles for Rage Bait. That's what it is.
I will say I reacted to another one that wasn't just star based, and it was so much better. It was I can bring that one up too if you want after. Yeah. It's got 5 trades in that one. But back to this, I mean, first of all, Ja Morant is not on the trading block to me. I mean, like they say Ja Morant or not Ja Morant. The Grizzlies need to make some changes because the core 3 alone of Bane, Ja, and Jaren hasn't really amounted to much, and they kind of look stuck. But trading, if you want to just retool so you can stay better, you're trading Ja Morant for Duncan Robinson, who's one of the worst contracts in basketball, Kyle Anderson, who is probably going to retire in a couple of years. Nikola Jovic, who hasn't proved anything, and Jaime Jaquez, who couldn't even play for the subpar Heat team this year.
Yeah.
I mean, the 3 first-round picks are nice, I will say, but those players, I mean, you don't care about Duncan Robinson. You don't care about Kyle Anderson. You, hold on, it went away. And I mean, the only player you probably care about to an extent is Jaime Jaquez and maybe a Nikola Jovic. But those first two,
hell no.
Like that's awful. And even if you look at the Miami Heat side, Tyler Hero just was a first-time All-Star when he had the ball in his hands because Jimmy Butler was out. You're then getting John Morant pushing Hero back to the shooting guard where he did not look good. Like, he did not look good before this year, in my opinion. And I mean, Tyler Hero and Bam to me are third options at best on a contending team. And on the Miami Heat team currently, they're both fighting on nights where they're the first option. And I don't think that's a good fit at all because Bam hasn't proven himself offensively to where he can stretch the floor for a guy like Ja who dominates the paint on the offensive side. So that's another really bad trade, I think. And now, who wins the Giannis sweepstakes? This is the last trade for this article. But
okay.
Who do you think wins the Giannis sweepstakes? I want you to guess again. Don't think of a likely spot, I will say.
Don't think, yeah, but I'm thinking what team has the best assets because the Bucks are if they're gonna trade Giannis, they're gonna go into full rebuild and they're gonna want to get the most young players, cap relief, and draft compensation as much as possible.
So I will say he's not going to OKC. He's not going to Houston. He's not going to a place that is sort of rumored. So he's not Houston, nothing like that. It's an Eastern Conference team.
I would say the Nets. Either the Nets or maybe if the Knicks lose and get bounced out the second round, the Knicks are going to have to probably package maybe Karl-Anthony Towns because if they trade for Giannis and Cat, that spacing is going to be absolutely awful. Jalen Brunson will have no room to operate. So they're going to have to probably include Cat, maybe a Mikal Bridges, and if they have any, probably a couple first-round draft picks or maybe Mikal Bridges and a Josh Hart to make it work. But I've seen the Nets pop up a lot because the Nets have a whole bunch of draft picks. They got a lot of young players. I think they can possibly make it work. Now, again, if I'm Giannis, would he be open to playing for the little brother in the New York capital market? Because he's in a win now situation. He's in his prime. I don't think he wants to wait a few years for a team to get good and get players. So that's my only thing. If it's the East Conference team, maybe the Nets or the Knicks, if they're willing to part ways with Cat and a couple of members of the Villanova Wildcats.
I will say you're in the right division.
Better not be the Boston Celtics.
Not the Boston Celtics.
Okay, so you said I'm in the right division. Okay, so I said it's not the Knicks, it's not the Nets, it's not the Celtics. Is it the Cleveland Cavaliers? Is it the Pacers, the team that he just lost to?
The right division, not the conference, the division.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misheard you. Okay, so right division. Who's in the division? The Nets or the Knicks division? Both. Okay, both. Let's see.
They're in the same division.
Yeah, who's in the Atlantic division? It's obviously the Nets, the Knicks, the Raptors.
The Toronto Raptors.
No way. Okay, I gotta listen to this. I have to hear this.
So proposal. Let's see. It is. So the Toronto Raptors receive Giannis and Pat Connaughton. The Milwaukee Bucks receive Brandon Ingram, who has never played a minute for the Toronto Raptors. RJ Barrett, a 2025 first-round pick, top 2 protected. 2027 first-round pick, 29 first-round pick, and 2031 first-round pick.
I'm not mad at the trade because that would make sense. But for the Bucks, if they're going to do that, I think that they would have a strong conversation about, hey, this is a good deal. You get 2 very good young players. You get 3 first-round draft picks. If I would try to get a little bit more, I think Giannis is worth 5 first-round draft picks because if fucking, Gobert could go for 5, Bridges could go for 5. He should at least go for minimum 5-6 first-round draft picks. But I would think maybe the Bucks will want a little bit more than that. because again, we're giving you Giannis, a guy who's easily gonna get you, gonna put you in title contention no matter who's around him. He's an average 30 points. He's one of the top 3 players in the league. So I'm not mad at that. If I don't think the Bucks want a little bit more now. The Raptors will do that trade, but the Bucks are not gonna okay that. They want a little bit more than that.
Yeah,
Throw in maybe a minimum 5, 6
Ivers,
first round draft picks, and then
100%. All unprotected.
Ingram, yeah, Ingram, and then Barrett, and then maybe if they throw in Emmanuel quickly as well too.
Oh, you don't
But
want that contract. I don't.
no,
I don't think the Bucks would want that contract. They still got Dame. You got to think too.
true, but yeah, but then they're gonna have to trade Dame because Dame is not gonna want to play in the Bucks on
Yeah,
another
but Dame
rebuild
might not even
situation.
play next year though.
True. But I'm saying when he comes back in like 2026, 2027 season,
Yeah,
Dame's like,
well,
I don't want to stay on this team. I came here to play with Giannis and win a championship. This team isn't a championship contending team, so send me
yeah.
elsewhere so that we have
Then
a point
you think
guard to
of that
replace him.
lineup, right? You think of the lineup that Toronto will have, which would probably be it would be Emmanuel quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be Grady Dick. It'll be Scotty Barnes, Giannis, and Jakob Podol. Not great spacing. Not
No,
great
not at all.
spacing. Grady's nice. Quickly can be sometimes, but Scotty Barnes is like a 30% 3-point shooter off the top of my head. Giannis obviously doesn't take him, and he doesn't need to. And then Pirtle doesn't. Portal, I don't know how you say his name, doesn't really do that either. He's like a floater guy.
No,
But I think defensively, I would be nice. But
offense is awful.
yeah, the
Offense is gonna be
offense would be
awful.
pretty bad. But I, before we go, we got more time, so I'll tell you this other article that I thought was
Okay.
way better. The trades. There's only 5. So the Orlando Magic boost their offense by acquiring Anthony Simons. I was a big fan of this before I read it out because it's not someone on a max contract, and Orlando has to pay big money to 3 of their guys, Jalen Suggs, Franz, and Paolo. But
Mm-hmm.
so Orlando receives Anthony Simons. The Portland Trailblazers receive Anthony Black, KCP, and a 2025 first round pick from Denver, which is the number 25 pick in the first round this year.
Honestly, that's not a bad trade.
It's not. The only thing that I was a little like is you're trading Anthony Simons because you want Shaden Sharp to start out in Portland, but you're getting back Anthony Black, who's another guard.
Yeah.
You got Scoot and Shaden Sharp. You're trading a guard. So Anthony Black's just going to have to come right back off the bench. So I don't know. I mean, Anthony Black would have to come off the bench in the Orlando anyways. So maybe not, but I was a big fan of this because again, it's like always like, oh, can Orlando get Devin Booker? Can they get Trae Young? Can they get LaMelo? All those guys are max players. And again, you have to pay max money to Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, Paolo. You know, you've got people on your bench that are going to make a little bit of money too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this was a pretty great trade for what
Yeah.
it was.
I like that trade. I like that trade a lot. I think it's I think both sides. Don't be surprised if they pull that trade package and then they actually go through it in the summer.
Mm-hmm. This might, without remembering what the other ones were, this might be my least favorite one. So Mitchell Robinson gives the Lakers a shot blocking, lob catching center.
Mm-hmm.
The Lakers would receive Mitchell Robinson. The New York Knicks would receive Jared Vanderbilt, a 25 second round pick, and a 26 first round pick swap rights. I don't like this because health reasons, and you're giving up one of your first round picks from Mitchell Robinson. Like I think they could get better and someone that's more available than that.
Yeah, no, and I don't think that moves the needle for the Knicks too, because again, Jared Vanderbilt, they already have so many wings. They don't need any more wings because how many minutes is he gonna play? He's not gonna play over Mikal Bridges, over OG. He's not even gonna play over Josh Hart. He's not gonna play at the guard position over Jalen Brunson. Or even Miles Bridges. Not Miles Bridges. What's the other guy? McBride, excuse me. So no, that's a horrible trade. Both teams, why would they do that?
Yeah, I don't know because that first round pick ain't gonna be nothing.
Yeah,
because it's a swap pick. So like you're gonna swap. So maybe the Knicks have the 24th pick and the Lakers have the 26th pick. You know, you're swapping like 2 spots or something. And yeah, Jared Vanderbilt. I mean, sure, but Jared Vanderbilt's looked awful since he's been in the Lakers the past couple of years. And again, Mitchell Robinson is not someone I want to be my only starting center on my, on a team like the Lakers where he's going to be taxed to do things.
Exactly. And plus, too, the Knicks don't even have a backup center, even though, Robertson, as you mentioned, has had injury history problems,
Mhm.
health problems. And let's just say Cat does suffer injury or has to be out a few games. Who they going to play at the center position? Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Bridges.
Yeah.
Hell, they might have to start Brunson at the center position. They don't have any other centers outside of Cat. So they're very thin up front. So, no, I do not do that trade at all.
All right. The third trade is the Miami Heat load up for next season.
Okay.
So the Miami Heat would receive Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton, and Jordan Clarkson. They would be giving up Nikola Jovic, Andrew Wiggins, Terry Rozier, Duncan Robinson, a 2025 first-round pick via Golden State, a 2029 first-round pick, top 5 protected.
If they're loading up, yeah, to get a whole bunch of picks. Yeah, because it's just like I said, a rebuild, not a retool in a way. So for the Heat, yeah, not a terrible trade. I actually kind of like it.
Yeah, I don't mind it either. I like Colin Sexton, Laurie Markkinen would help. Like this,
Mhm.
those players help your offense, which the Miami Heat desperately needed. But Utah, they're really like Andrew Wiggins would probably get bought out,
Yeah,
maybe, or flipped again. Terry Rozier, another one of the worst contracts in basketball, and he's going
yeah,
through that whole betting thing, whatever that
yeah,
he's
yeah.
getting accused of. And Duncan Robinson again, and just like the same thing I said. And Nikola
Disgusting
Jovic hasn't really
contract.
proven himself. Now, granted, they're going to a team in Utah who is a bottom of the barrel team, but you're getting Terry Rozier, Duncan Robinson, who you don't care about. Andrew
Mhm.
Wiggins, you probably don't care about. Nikola Jovic, you probably give some burn to, but and then you get a 2025 first and a 2029 first, really. So I don't
Yeah,
think it's the worst. I think it's good for Miami. I just think Utah would maybe want one more player of
yeah.
meaning, kind of. But let's see
Yeah,
the
I
next one.
agree.
This was my favorite trade. It's a
Okay.
3-teamer.
Oh, okay.
It's titled "The Celtics Shed Salary and the Pistons Load Up in 3-team Deal." It's not my favorite just because it's the Celtics, because I mentioned, but it fits all 3 teams, I think.
Okay.
So the Boston Celtics receive Isaiah Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
The Detroit Pistons get Drew Holiday and Cam Johnson. And then the Brooklyn Nets receive Tobias Harris, Sam Hauser, Marcus Sasser, and a 2026 first-round pick, top 5 protected via Detroit.
The Nets are gonna have to waive or probably flip those couple of contracts, most likely Tobias
Yeah,
Harris and Sam
probably.
Hauser.
Yeah.
So for the Nets, they're gonna have to rework those 2 contracts, but they do get a first round pick.
Mhm.
For the Boston Celtics, you said Porzingis was involved in that trade or no?
No, Drew.
Drew? I would have been like them more for Porzingis to be involved, but maybe they can reroute Porzingis for another deal. Drew, yes, since they're gonna have to get rid of his contract for obviously salary cap reasons, and you get back a guy who just brings that intimidating factor, that toughness. Okay, I like it for Boston again, even though you're giving up a valuable player like Drew.
Mhm.
And for the Pistons, honestly, if there's been rumors about them possibly trading Hart Stewart, I think that's a good
Yeah.
compensation for him as well too. So yeah,
The
yeah,
way I
I think
kind of
it's yeah.
the way I kind of broke it down to like Boston, I was just talking about when we talked to them about them. They need another center. They need another big that's not 38 years old, Al Horford or injury
Mm-hmm.
prone Porzingis. They get that Isaiah Stewart can play. I like him. He brings some of the things that Boston kind of lacks with the toughness, the paint presence on defense. So I like that. Detroit gets Drew Holiday. Basically, Drew Holiday would play shooting guard. And Cam Johnson, I think, is a little bit better version of Tobias Harris. I kind of wish it's kind of funny if it was Drew Holiday and it was like Derek White instead, who was better offensively. I think Detroit likes it way more. But we're not giving up Derek White. I'm just
Yeah, no.
saying, if it was a guy like if this was Drew from like 3 years ago who still had kind of an offensive bag, I think it would be so much better, but I still think it's a good player to have because you bring defense along on that guard position and you still he can still shoot, he can still score. It just he can't do a lot of self creation for his own, but he can create for others. Again, Cam Johnson is a like $19 million player. He shot around 40% from three last year. And then Tobias Harris, and then the Nets, they can flip Tobias Harris and Hauser for more picks, to contenders or something like that. Marcus Sasser they would probably keep because he's a younger guard. And then they get a 2026 first round pick. I thought that was the best trade of the whole thing, just because it fits so many different people and it's a three teamer.
Yeah,
Um,
I like it.
the last trade, we're back to the superstar stuff. Giannis gives Houston its superstar.
Mm,
So the Houston Rockets would receive only Giannis. The Milwaukee Bucks would get Jalen Green,
okay.
Jabari Smith,
Oh,
Cam Whitmore,
oh,
Aaron Holiday, a 2025 first round pick via the Phoenix Suns, which would probably be like the 13th pick, um, and a 2027 first round pick via the Suns. So that basically leaves Houston with, like, with their starting lineup. It would probably be like Amen, uh,
Fred,
or
definitively.
yeah, Fred, Amen, like Dylan Brooks, Giannis, and Sengun. Not great spacing. Could be better, but defensively, it's a
Yeah,
great team, man. And it gives again Houston its star. Milwaukee would then be looking at, I mean, Dame would be hurt for that first year, so it wouldn't be Dame. It would probably be, say it's Aaron Holiday, Jalen Green, Kyle Kuzma, Jabari Smith, and then whoever the center is, or maybe they push Jabari to the five and have let Cam Whitmore start. But and then they get 2 first round picks. Don't think that's enough for
no.
Giannis, honestly, but you are getting a lot of good players too, which kind of would take the place of some of those first round picks. I still think you would maybe have to give up like a third or a fourth pick, but I think it's a pretty good trade too. I think it's better than that damn Toronto trade.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if Rockets were to throw another first round pick in that proposal, I think that'll be a fair trade because again, you're getting Jalen Green, again Jabari Smith, 3 first rounders. They could possibly flip Aaron Holiday and maybe Cam Whitmore. Honestly, not bad. And again, you got 3 first round picks
Mhm.
moving forward to try to rebuild. So yeah, and for the Bucks, I'm not for Bucks, for Houston, you mentioned they get their face of franchise. Sengun have to be the second best player on the team now, but he can learn a lot from Giannis. Those European players, he could probably teach him more how to post up because Sengun post up game can use a little bit more work, even though he's more finesse. Giannis has great footwork for being a power forward slash center. So I think, yeah, for the Houston Rockets, they would do that deal again if they don't have to include Thompson or Sangoon. We mentioned Smith hasn't been playing that well. His minutes has been diminishing a little bit, hasn't lived up to that high pick overall. And Jalen Green, again, it was any indication of his performance in this year's playoffs. They might look to move him as well too. So I think that's a good trade, honestly. If they throw in one more draft pick, then yeah, I think that you got a deal.
But yeah, that's the end. I thought that article was way better than the
Oh yeah,
first one that
yeah,
we
10 times
read.
better.
But anyways, that's
Ten
all we
times better.
got. We'll be back for more of the playoffs as it comes. But
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Another good episode. Thank you again, Keith. Don't forget to check out his YouTube channel at Keith HAI. For another episode of World's Friend, not World's Friends, for another episode of Hoops All In. I'm your host, World's Francois Keith Bazin. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms at Hoops All In on Instagram, TikTok, and X/Twitter. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Hoops All In and subscribe to Keith Bazin's YouTube channel, Keith HAI. We will catch you guys next time. Everybody stay safe. Enjoy the playoffs and happy Mother's Day to all the wonderful,
yes,
beautiful mothers out there who care for their children and who are great wives. Happy Mother's Day to you guys. And again, also listen to us on the audio version of the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Palm Bean, or wherever you stream your weekly or daily podcast. We'll catch you guys later. Stay safe. God bless. Peace.